Hey guys, coldbrew here. Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. We got some news today and a big announcement on new legendary champions coming into the game alongside Supreme Elhain. Well, you've guessed it right. It's Supreme Aethol, Supreme Kale, and Supreme Gallic coming into the game as well. They'll be available through Void Shot. So new Void champions diluting the pool a little bit. So are they worth diluting the pool? Well, we'll just see it in this video. We'll go over their skills and their possible ways that you can use those champions if you happen to get them. I'm hopeful that in the future they'll do some guaranteed type of event where you can get those champions, because if that is not the case, then it's just wishful thinking in terms of getting them. It's the same way as thinking, okay, getting a Sifi, all right? It's that hard, okay? It's one out of how many Void legendary champions we've got right now, like 50 with those three added into the game, or with Elhain. So it's still gonna be extremely difficult and pricey as well, if you consider the price of Void shards and how difficult they are to get, comparing them to ancient shards. So before we get started with that, I want to show you guys some events that we're gonna have starting March 8th. So tomorrow we're gonna have some events on swapping artifacts and accessories for free, and then March 9th, 10th, we're gonna have triple drops of reflex artifacts, stalwart, and savage artifacts, all from the Fire Knight, Ice Golem, and Dragon accordingly. The thing with me here is it's a little bit weird, since on March 9th they're also launching a special hard mode string pack, which seems weird because the hard mode dungeons are not out yet. So are we gonna have hard mode dungeons for these triple drop events? I'm wondering that. We didn't have access to the test server, so if we're gonna have access to the test server before these start, then it means that the hard mode dungeons are not gonna be out, right? So not sure. I personally wouldn't spend a lot of energy for these, just because it's gonna be a triple savage that I would go for, but I would want to wait and use up all my energy for the new dungeons in getting a mythical item. A mythical item is much better than just having, you know, triple the amount of rare or epic ones, because in the mythical dungeons, I'm guessing the drop rates for everything will be increased compared to how the normal dungeons are. So that's it for that kind of announcement. We still don't know on the exact date. We're gonna have a personal CBC starting next week also, so have that in mind. Don't go too crazy. We're also gonna have the Supreme Elhain thing going on, so just be careful with your resources before you just go all out. Let's get started with Aethol, right? Aethol will be huge for this one, and let me zoom out a little bit so we can see all her skills. There's Supreme Aethol. She looks very similar to how the normal Aethol looks. All of them actually look very similar, except maybe Gallic in terms of his whole equipment that I saw from the model. So let's have a look at her stats and skills. Okay, she's got an aura, ally attack aura in arena battles by 35% boosted. That is pretty cool. And then the A1, if there's enemies under freeze debuff, also attacks them. So it's a single target attack, but then can also attack frozen targets. Decreases the enemy's attack by 3% whenever this champion hits an enemy with this skill, stacks up to 30%. So you gotta hit somebody 10 times to reduce it 30%. That is insane. If you compare it to Taras, that is not as easy. Also increases the champion's attack by 3% whenever they hit an enemy with this skill, stacks up to 30%. That will be solid, I would say, for the clan boss. If this works on the clan boss, that will be an insane kit to have for Aethol. And since it's a single target hit, if she kept the triple hitting A1, that would have been insane. Anyway, let's go and have a look at A2. Attacks all enemies, will ignore, strengthen, ally protection, and killable. Similar to how Elhain is on enemies under freeze debuff. Oh, that's not the same. Then has a 100% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. That is so bad, because she attacks first, will ignore all of that if they're frozen already. So if you have something to freeze them already, then you'll be able to ignore all that. That doesn't really make sense on the A2. It's an underwhelming A2 to say the least. And ever faithful, we've got increased attack and a 30% crit rate buff and a shield buff on this champion for 3 turns, then grants an extra turn. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's attack. That's pretty cool. In terms of his skill, she'll activate that. She'll be ready to burst nuke the enemies and do her A2 skill, which I'm wondering on the multipliers. And then on her passive, 15% chance of placing a freeze debuff on attackers for 1 turn. When hit while under a shield buff, 35% chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn whenever a shield buff on this champion is removed by damage. So that looks cool in terms of having the shields on you, the shield that you apply on you as well, in terms of placing the freeze debuff on the attackers. It's like having one of those forge sets on you, and also when the shield buff is removed by damage, which is really bad, you have a good chance to freeze, a really good chance. And that goes up with skill books as well. 25% chance for the first one, 50% chance for the second one. So pretty solid. It doesn't specify if it's a shield buff applied by Aethol, Supreme Aethol. So that is pretty cool. It means all shields will be doing that in terms of the freeze. I kind of like it. I kind of like it in terms of having that way in freezing enemies. She's okay, I would say, but not as good as other Void Nukers, but not as bad as other Void Nukers as well. I think she'll be right there in the middle. She's not going to be top tier, but she's not going to be bottom tier as well. So next up is Supreme Galek. Okay, Supreme Galek, that's what I said. He looks pretty cool in terms of how he looks for the Supreme version. All of them are Void, by the way, so I'm not going to cover that again. Exemplar or Rage attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has an extra 10% chance of inflicting a critical hit. So that is on all of his skills, by the way. So everything he does now needs 10% less crit, which is nice. You build him with 90%. Each hit has a 40% chance of increasing the duration of any HP burns debuff. That is solid, goes to 60%. Solid for HP burn stuff. And then the A2 is what makes him special. 4 times at random hit. Places an increased attack buff on this champion before attacking. Each hit has a 10% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Each hit also has a 75% chance of instantly activating any HP burns debuff on each target and decreasing the duration of those HP burn debuffs by 1 turn. I think it just means the activation of HP burn debuffs here. It doesn't mean that it will first activate, which reduces the count by 1 and then also reduce it by another 1. I don't think that is how it works. Feels the determinator of this champion by 30% if 3 or more HP burn debuffs are activated. Well, it should be, right? It should be like a constant boost because he's going to be attacking everybody. If they have the HP burns, he'll be activating them. And then at unreasoning outburst attacks all enemies. 75% chance of placing HP burn on block buffs, debuffs for 2 turns. Wow, that is solid. Also places a 30% decreased speed debuff on targets whose terminator is higher than 50%. That will be very solid for the new spider if you happen to get him in terms of HP burn, applying HP burn on all enemies. And then whenever this champion receives Fear, True Fear, Freeze, Provoke, Sleep, Stun, or Petrification, instantly removes it, fully heals this champion, and grants an extra turn. That is very cool. That is the fully heal part. Will make it very special because he'll get that extra turn and actually get a turn. I think you'll have a lot of uses. Supreme Galek will also be very good for the Hydra just because of the HP burn activations. The less crit that you need, the block buffs is amazing. I think he's an amazing Hydra champion. I wouldn't mind getting him if I was having issues with the Hydra. But let's say other Void champions such as obviously Acrisia, which she'll have the same chance of you to get it. You'll have the same chance to get Acrisia as Supreme Galek. Just have that in mind. In terms of, I'm comparing Voids to Voids right now. That's why the comparison is pretty big. Acrisia is top tier, but would Galek be the same line? No, obviously not. And I don't know if they'll do some kind of events. I'm hopeful they'll do more events like these, like guaranteed events or maybe fusions in the future for these Supreme versions. These are pretty cool champions, which should be easier to get for everybody. All right, they're not game breaking like Acrisia would be to give out to everybody, but a Supreme Galek wouldn't break the game. It would make things easier in terms of dungeons for everybody if that would get him, but yeah, not as much as Acrisia. All right, let's cover the final one, the Kill, Supreme Kill. I left this one at the end because I think he's the best one of the lot. obviously, like the epic version of Kill and the normal rare version of Kill, all of them are better than all the other starters. So yeah, he looks pretty cool. Very similar to normal models that they have. But have a look at this skill set. Seriously. AoE attack on the A1, 75% chance when booked to apply the weaken debuff, and this debuff cannot be resisted. That is insane. Unresistible weaken plus AoE attack on the A1. That is amazing. That is amazing on his A1. And then the A2 AoE attack again, 100% chance if you book it to apply 3 poison debuffs for 2 turns. These debuffs cannot be resisted. Also increases the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. This effect cannot be resisted. Insane in terms of his utility for dungeons. You can probably use him for dragon and just have a lot of fun with that. A2, the A1 also unresistible means you can go heavy in terms of other stats instead of his accuracy. But he also has the A3, which is an AoE again, places 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies, which is good. He himself doesn't need as much accuracy, except for if you want to apply the decreases resistance debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted. Oh wait, he doesn't need even that. He doesn't need accuracy even there. So he needs 0 accuracy and helps everybody apply their debuffs as well. Fills this champion's turn by 10% for each decreased resistance debuff placed by this skill. This is borderline overpowered in terms of the unresistible on all of his skills. There's no other champion in the game, I believe, that has all of this stuff unresistible. Decreased resistance, 3 poisons, the weaken debuff as an AoE, pure insanity if you ask me. And then we have decrease each target's accuracy, crit rate, and crit damage by 3% for each poison debuff on them. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. Pretty cool. I mean, the multiple champions, it means multiple kills, supreme kills. Okay, so when the poisons are on them, he also decreases accuracy, insane, crit rate, and crit damage. So with a lot of poisons, he can potentially reduce the crit rate of bosses to 0. All bosses have 15% crit rate, so with 5 poisons, so kills plus another poisoner, can help reduce that to 0. You're reducing accuracy, so the boss will not be able to apply their debuffs as easily, but it's not that crazy. It's actually a percentage, which is very much different. So reducing accuracy by a percentage is very strong on higher dungeons. The higher you go, the stronger this becomes. And I would say that Supreme Kill is top of the line. I would definitely want to have Supreme Kill on my account. All the other ones, I wouldn't mind, but it's a pretty obvious choice why I would want this guy. But I think anybody would say the same. In terms of the 4, I would want Supreme Kill. Supreme Kill should be Void with all those skill sets. Definitely should be Void. Aethol, not so much. The same thing with Supreme Kill, not so much. Galek, he's close because of the activation. It's very unique in terms of having a skill that activates HP burns. It's so unique. It's borderline there. It all depends on his multipliers as well. There's other non-void champions that do activations, and they're very, very good. I'm not talking about Ninja. I'm talking about other champions that can activate HP burns. So having all that in mind, what do you guys think about all these 4 champions added to the game? I know it's diluting the pool, but this is the only way we can have more void champions. We have to have some mediocre ones, some bad ones, to have the good ones, right? They cannot keep adding, you know, good legendaries in there, because then they'll be pretty much losing money. If you get one good legendary and then you don't care anymore about summoning again. But that is more for the medium spenders and not for the whales. The whales, they'll go crazy for everything. So this was the video, guys, covering these new champions. These are the news so far that we have. If we have more, I will share it with you. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.